Hello, it is always fun to stealthily introduce some offbeat elements into your personal style in order to elevate and help you escape the entrapments of bougie convention. The French brand Comme Des Garcons is particularly good at sending out subliminal signals about individualism, and today I would like to review their 2019 release called Copper that, despite it having very punk affectations, is a striking modern beauty and a feat in olfactive refinement. This is a fragrance for the adventurous and the experienced nose, so stick around if you're interested in dancing with a rebel. You may be familiar with Comme Des Garcons as an avant-garde Parisian fashion brand best known for its anti-fashion elements and its deviation from classical notions of beauty. Comme des Garcons Perfumes distinguished itself in 1998 when it introduced the anti-perfume Odeur 53, which was a combination of 53 strange notes that weren't traditional in perfumery, such as oxygen, flash metal, sand dunes, nail polish, laundry drying in the wind, burnt rubber, and flaming rock. This certainly set the tone for the future of their fragrance line, and today you can find fragrances of theirs with names like Dot, Black Pepper, Concrete, and now Copper. If this piques your curiosity, then check out my description box. I've linked a few interesting essays there. The fragrance Copper was created in 2019 by the perfumer Aliénor Massenet. The creative director Christian Astuguevier changed the brief numerous times before settling on the simple phrase, "fiery red metal, cool to the touch." This introduced a very new style of narrative articulated with unusual references and a much broader olfactive vocabulary. The video advert was shot by Tyler Mitchell, in which he glorifies the burnished beauty of brown skin. So let me talk to you about the bottle. Like many of the Comme des Garcons fragrances, it comes in the signature asymmetrical pebble-shaped bottle. This one in particular has a matte metallic finish in a copper tone, and it's got a slight red shift to it. The name is written in white here at the bottom with the brand name underneath. And despite it being a very eye-catching bottle, it has one drawback, which only really applies if you are big on displaying your perfumes, but it invariably lies on its side. It cannot stand up. I don't mind this so much. I feel like it's an extension of its quirkiness. This fragrance has a very sharp electrical opening that is not for the faint of heart. It is not something you're going to enjoy if you're in the mood for being all swaddled up and indulged. This is a fragrance with a bright terpenic opening of peppercorns and galbanum. Galbanum is a very potent natural ingredient that is also very polarizing. It's a resin that comes from the stalk of the galbanum plant that grows abundantly in the mountainous regions of northern Iran. It is a very green, aromatic, bitter note that I find very beautiful. And if you're wondering how something so bitter can be beautiful, then think of the bitterness in a gin and tonic, for example. Like with a gin and tonic, it is supported with some sweetness, and that gives it enormous balance. And in this case, that is coming from a beautifully subtle black currant. So as I said, the opening is electric and invigorating, and it has a strong metallic feel. And when I say metallic, it's important to note that I'm not referring to that horrible smell that comes off oxidized copper pots. Instead, I get a very clean, sleek, bright, metallic feel that's kind of reminiscent of steel, for example. And I'm pretty sure that that comes from the use of aldehydes. Very quickly, there are heart notes that surface, and you have a beautiful, tender, sweet tobacco leaf that is paired with a powdery, sweet violet leaf. And together they make the heart much warmer and cozier than that original fierce opening. It's definitely settled into a more comfortable wear at this point. There's also a fuzzy candied ginger that is so delicious but also quite bitey. There are also other notes that are not listed that I feel like I can detect, including a citrusy, waxy kind of linden blossom, and maybe a tiny dash of cumin and nutmeg. And there is also a very dry herbal note that to me is somewhat like a cannabis note in some ways. But maybe that's just the terpenic effect that is confusing the nose alongside the greenness. I'm not sure. Interestingly, there's also this recurring impression that I get, and it reminds me strongly of my mother, who is a painter. And growing up, her workshop used to emanate this powerful aroma of turpentine and linseed oil that she used for her oil paints. And that scent always reminded me of happy productivity and of belonging. So wearing this fragrance is very nostalgic and comforting to me. Again, on a personal note, the school that I attended growing up had beautiful old architecture with carved wooden features that were polished on a weekly basis with linseed oil. And there were deep verandas with tiles on the floor that were polished with wax as well on a regular basis. And these fragrances intermingled and became synonymous with the feeling of proud enterprise and collaboration and camaraderie. The Drydown is wonderfully velvety, embracing and warm. And it's heavily enriched with vanilla and a sweet myrrh. And I strongly suspect that there is also a synthetic molecule called iso-E-super. Iso-E-super is a well-loved aroma chemical and is usually used in the base of a fragrance to give a fragrance a very smooth, clean, woody, ambery tone. And it tends to have facets of a clean ambergris, patchouli, and vetiver. And those are very intimate notes. And you definitely feel that intimacy and warmth coming through here, but very clean. Overall, the Drydown feels very relaxed and warm, a bit like sunning yourself in the conservatory. That said, there are a lot of contrasts and contradictions, and if you've been following me, you know that this is a highly prized characteristic in my books. It gives a lot of tension to the narrative, and it also gives character to the identity of the fragrance. In this fragrance, we find a remarkable coexistence of cool and warm, of bitter and sweet, of independent and cozy, and of modern and nostalgic. So who is this fragrance for? Well, there's a great overlap between our sense of taste and our sense of smell, and you're probably already aware whether or not you are more inclined towards sweet flavors or more savory ones. If you tend more towards the sweet, indulgent end of the spectrum, then this fragrance is probably not going to be your cup of tea. Green fragrances are very much an acquired taste, so don't blind buy this and don't choose this as a gift for somebody. If you are already acquainted with very contrasted green amber fragrances, then this is definitely worth exploring. Also, if you tend to shy away from very sweet, floral, or fruity fragrances, this will be a breath of fresh air for you. I became aware of this fragrance when a fellow reviewer mentioned the fact that it was a green ambery fragrance, and it immediately reminded me of my current signature scent, which is a very Galbanum rich amber fragrance. It's called Must by Cartier. And although they are not similar in any way, they are definitely from the same type of structure and family of fragrances. In my opinion, this fragrance would best suit someone with a very bold and individualistic demeanor. That's because this fragrance is very striking, original, and a bit gender bending. Every time I wear it, people are simultaneously drawn in with pleasure and intrigue, but also completely confounded. If you understand the difference between pretty and beautiful, then this fragrance is the latter. So despite having a very explosive opening, this fragrance is never shouty, obnoxious, it doesn't have a nuclear projection, and it won't overwhelm unless you're in the antisocial habit of using the whole bottle. So this is an eau de parfum concentration, which means it's quite a rich liquid that leaves the skin slowly. As I said, it's not massively projecting, but it does leave a distinct and very alluring trail for the first 4 hours, I'd say. Then it settles to a fuzzy, warm, medicinal, woody skin scent that is detectable by anyone standing close to you. After about 8 or 9 hours, the fragrance really starts to fade. But on clothes, this fragrance lasts for weeks. If you're interested in this fragrance and you want to give it a sniff or check out the other fragrances in the same brand, then have a look online for a boutique close to you that stocks the brand. You're not going to find this in your typical department store. This is more niche type of fragrance, and so it's more expensive and harder to get. My goodness, it's so original. It's just as an exercise in cultivating yourself, go and smell it. It's amazing. So I really hope you enjoyed learning about this different style of fragrances and that it inspired you to expand your olfactory palette and to explore new uncharted territories. I'll be back next week with another exciting video, so please subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you then. Bye.